Welcome guys. In this video we'll find out everything you need to know about the proper use of over-the-shoulder aiming in order to become a better player on the battlegrounds. But first, make sure you leave a like so the algorithm grants you pro PUBG Mobile skills. Let's begin. OTS mode is very useful in PUBG Mobile. It can help you improve your precision when shooting opponents in certain close-range combat situations. To activate it, you have to enable this setting and choose the mode in which you want to use it. The optimal button placement depends on your controls. If you play with 2 or 3 fingers, I suggest you leave the button here. But if you play with 4 fingers, it is better to leave it on one of the 2 upper sides opposite to the fire button. As a general rule of thumb, I suggest that you keep it close to your aim button. But if it's more comfortable for you to have it in another position, go ahead and do it. If you'll use it with your thumb, activate this option. This allows you to rotate the camera with your thumb while dragging the button. Optimal sensitivity. To get the perfect sensitivity for OTS aiming, you have to follow certain steps in order depending on how you control your recoil. If you use the gyroscope to control the recoil, in the camera sensitivity section, the OTS setting has to be equal to the third and first person settings respectively. In the ADS sensitivity section, copy the setting of the basic sights to the OTS sensitivity. In the gyroscope sensitivity and ADS gyroscope sections, copy the same value that you have in third and first person respectively. If instead you use your thumb to control the recoil, in the camera sensitivity section, copy the settings of the basic sights to the OTS sensitivity. Now copy this to the ADS sensitivity section. Now your OTS sensitivity should be decently calibrated, but if you feel like you need to adjust it even more, you have to improve your accuracy with these exercises. Non-gyro calibration. General camera sensitivity. Try to transfer precisely between 2 targets without shooting them. Adjust your sensitivity until you can comfortably do it 10 times in a row. Once you get the perfect value, set up standard training with a moving target and keep your sights on the target as much as possible. ADS sensitivity. Set the same value as your OTS camera sensitivity. Now try to precisely transfer between 2 targets while still shooting. Adjust your sensitivity until you can comfortably do it 10 times in a row. Full gyro calibration. General camera sensitivity. Adjust your sensitivity to a value that allows you to easily move your reticle from one side to the other with a single swipe of your thumb. Whenever you're able to do this 10 times in a row without a problem, you have the perfect sensitivity. ADS sensitivity. Set up standard training with movement and track your target while shooting. Adjust your sensitivity until you feel comfortable. Do this only if you use your finger to control the recoil. If you use the gyroscope, it is better to leave this setting at 1%. Gyroscope sensitivity. Set a value that allows you to transfer your reticle between 2 targets with ease. Make sure you can do it 20 times in a row comfortably. Now copy that value to the ADS gyroscope section. Now test your effectiveness with this exercise. If you feel uncomfortable with your sensitivity, adjust it again until you're able to do it accurately. Make sure to perfectly adjust your sensitivity in order to be incredibly precise with your OTS aiming. If you still need to calibrate your general sensitivity from scratch, you can watch this guide in order to obtain your perfect sensitivity. But if you need to calibrate your custom sensitivity, you can watch this one instead. OTS Leaning. Leaning with OTS mode enabled is tricky when you still use basic leaning. If you have this setting enabled, the moment you press the peak button you will automatically aim down your sights. In this case, you can only lean with OTS aiming if you press the button after leaning. I suggest progressing to advanced leaning in order to simplify the use of the OTS mode so that aiming will not get in the way of the entire process. Leaning when aiming from the hip helps you maintain a decent view of your surroundings while maintaining moderate reticle accuracy. When leaning left, the FOV is normally focused on the right, but activating OTS aiming helps focus it to the left, thus maximizing your visibility. You can use this to scan your surroundings. That'll improve the chances of you spotting enemies. Normally, right leaning will always be better because it exposes less of your body when shooting. Leaning to the left is more difficult because you expose a greater amount, but clearly there are many situations in which it will help to do so. I suggest practicing with this exercise to get used to this mechanic. That way, if you find yourself in a situation that requires leaning to the left with the OTS Aiming Mode, you will be ready. Performance analysis. Now we're going to do some tests to analyze the performance of OTS aiming in various areas and thus find its optimal use in combat. Movement speed test. In this test we're going to compare the speed at which you can move in each mode. OTS aiming and ADS aiming have exactly the same speed, so hip firing is a lot faster. Bullet spread comparison. Let's compare the bullet spread to see how much OTS aiming improves your accuracy. OTS aiming is 78% more accurate than hip firing, but this difference only applies when you are not moving while shooting. Here are the spread results with movement, and this time the improvement is only 9%, so it's not worth jiggling while OTS aiming. But if instead you stay still when OTS aiming, you can see that the improvement this time is a 440% more precision, but keep in mind that this result only compares the conventional use of each mode. Recoil pattern comparison. To compare the recoil, we're going to take into account only the position of the center of the reticle during each shot. This is to rule out the effect that the bullet spread has on the accuracy of the test. In this sample, you can see that the horizontal recoil is reduced by 12%, but the difference in the vertical recoil is so small that it can be considered equal under the margin of error. You can also observe that the OTS recoil is more consistent for longer during your shots. However, the practical performance is the same since recoil is not very relevant at short distances. Aiming speed comparison. Finally, we are going to compare the time it takes to effectively focus on your target in the two aiming modes. OTS targeting is slightly faster, but the difference is so minimal that you won't notice it in combat. Advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage of OTS is the increase in accuracy compared to hip firing, but the main disadvantage is the decrease in speed that limits your flexibility of movement. You have to take all of this into account when evaluating whether you should use this mode, especially in specific situations where it may either be useful or dangerous. Conclusion. There are several situations in which using OTS mode will be optimal, but thanks to its disadvantages, these situations are quite specific. The optimal way to use this combat mode in an open field is by crouching and staying still while firing. This way you optimize your accuracy to the maximum. Movement is relevant as its speed is so limited that it is not an effective strategy to use it in situations where you need to jiggle. Use it up to 20 meters away, but remember that the only notable advantage this mode has over aiming down your sights is the field of view, so if you need precision, it is better to aim with the scope. This mode is useful if you need to apply suppressive fire towards an opponent in cover. Make sure your target is less than 30 meters away, otherwise your shots will be too imprecise to intimidate them. In a situation where you're within close range of an opponent inside a building, it is optimal to use hip aiming to maximize your accuracy and visibility through windows. If you're waiting for your enemy to pass through a corridor, it is advantageous to aim like this to minimize your body's exposure while maintaining a decent spread. Remember that in these situations, it is better to balance the dispersion of bullets at a level that covers the path that your enemy is going to take. It is not good to maximize precision since you could lose track of your reticle over your opponent. If you activate this function and lean to the left behind cover, your field of view is increased, so you can have better visibility when scanning your surroundings. If you're prone and aiming down your sights, the grass will block your view, but if you aim from the hip, you can shoot accurately and have good visibility. Fortunately, it doesn't slow you down while moving, so you can freely hold this mode for a slight zoom in. It works even with free look, so you can scan your surroundings with ease as you move. This mode is not used frequently, so you most likely don't have the instinct or muscle memory to apply it optimally. To improve this, you need to practice with these training drills in order to improve your combat performance with OTS mode. Exercise number 1. Short range recoil control. Shoot towards your target until you can eliminate it. Try to do it with a simple magazine. The purpose of this exercise is to improve your recoil control ability in case you have difficulty with this. Exercise number 2. Reflex training. Focus the reticle on your target and shoot just once. Don't stop OTS aiming. This exercise trains your ability to quickly lock onto a target at close range, so you can get used to improving your reaction time. Exercise number 3. Running and target lock-on. Run at the firing spot and take out your target. Do it repeatedly in order to train your ability to take the optimal position immediately while focusing the reticle on your target at all times. Exercise number 4. Target lock-on with cover. Use a car as cover to lock onto your target, then shoot it when standing. The purpose of this exercise is to train your ability to properly use cover with this aiming mode. Exercise number 5. Target transfer. Use a laser sight equipped vector to transfer your focus between the 3 closest targets with a continuous spray. This drill will improve your ability to face multiple opponents at once without difficulty. Exercise number 6. Target tracking. Make sure to keep your reticle on the target until it is eliminated. This drill will train your ability to control recoil while tracking targets at close range. Exercise number 7. Leaning training. Use this box as cover while practicing this drill to improve your comfort in combat by leaning to either side. That way, if this is ever needed, it won't be difficult for you to do it. Exercise number 8. Diagonal leaning. Use this vehicle to train diagonal leaning in order to optimize the use of cover when OTS aiming. You have to train these exercises progressively. When you've mastered one, move on to the next. It is not a training routine. When you finish the last exercise, you don't need to repeat it ever again unless you need to. Just focus on getting used to the OTS mode mechanic in the training grounds before applying it against a real opponent. When you're done, you can start training in arena mode. Just make sure to deactivate the normal aim button to use exclusively OTS aiming. This will improve your ability to recognize situations in which it is necessary to use this mechanic. Make sure you reactivate the button after practicing. Now you're ready to apply these new combat techniques in completely real matches in order to surprise your opponents and gain the upper hand.